Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. I just wanted to do a video going over my library card system. Now, this has been something I think I've addressed on and off on this channel, but I'm always interested in doing a refresh or looking at it from a different angle because it's something that I enjoy. It's a bit of a pet project of mine, and it's probably a bit odd. And whenever someone expresses interest in it, I'm more than happy to jump in and share. So first of all, what is my library card project? So every time I read a book, I create two cards. I create let me actually grab from my book journal. Sorry guys, gotta reach behind you. Okay. So in my book journal, which is where these go, which is a great segue. So I create I'm going to do it for one of the listings where I actually, on a rare occasion, actually pull, that got a little sticky still. That glue didn't work as well as I wanted it to. Okay. All right, we're going to use an example of my entry for the Johnstown flood, which is a little different than my normal entries insofar as I actually have the library catalog card not actually pasted on the page, but put in a pocket like I do for the normal library card. So what I do is I'll create a library catalog card, and when I do everything I want to do, I will do a stamp that indicates that it's an audiobook if I have an audiobook, or a stamp that indicates that it's a physical book if it's a physical book. Now I did this both by audiobook and by paperback. I think I borrowed the audiobook from, oh, here it is. I borrowed it from Libby, and I think I was switching back and forth. And so I have all the information about publisher, all that sort of stuff. I also create a library catalog card. So that way, no matter how many times I read it, I can see when I read it, when I reread it, and I can create an ongoing catalog, just like people do for the library. Also, if I lend the book to my family member, I will then stamp the card, put their name on it, and when they're done with it, I'll stamp it again because it's my nerdy little joy. Because then I can pretend I'm a library without actually like marking my side of my books like a library. That I don't do. Maybe I'll eventually get to that level of nerdiness. Not gotten there yet. So yes, every single one of my books, I create these two cards when I start them. Unless it's a reread, in which case I have those cards already created and then I just restamp. I did that fairly recently, a restamping with, let me find it. I did it with an Agatha Christie. So actually it'd be farther back. Some of these you can tell when I used an inferior tape or inferior glue because it kind of still sticks together. It'll come up apart from itself, with a little bit of pulling, but some glue is inferior to other glues. And it's been a matter of trial and error to find which glue is the best. Okay, that's for Mouse. Now, some of these cards, I still wanted to make a listing, even though I'm probably never going to read the book again. Oh, here we go. This is the card I was looking for. So, for example, I read Death in the Clouds twice since I made this library card. Once in 2023, once in 2024. Both for Christie's Missing, as you can see from the time slots shown there. Now, I have read this book many more times than that. But since I created the library card system, I have only read this book twice. And that's what my intention is. And I also have created in the back of my book journal a bit of an index so I have an idea of what's in this book. And I've also created a typed up index that'll be in the front of my library card resource book. So that way I can easily see what books I have already had in each book journal, because there's going to be multiple book journals and they always need to be where I can access them so I can, take library cards from reread books. So they create not only a what's the word I'm looking for? It not only creates a record of what I've read, and is a continual record of what I will be reading, or what I, as I'm reading them. It also, allows me to be a bit creative. Most of the time it does tend to be pasting because that's easiest and it's still quite fun for me. But every once in a while I will engage in other artistic endeavors when I feel like it. That's usually, the drawing doesn't come out a lot. I think the last time I did something that had actual drawing was when I did the Don Bluth book. And that was the occasion, that was last year. So some of these I might go back and add things for pages that are a little bit more empty. So yeah, when I did the Don Bluth book, that was the last time I think I did some actual artwork instead of just doing pasting. But I can draw, and it just made more sense to me to do something with these characters that I was really fond of from my childhood, and just do them myself. But that took a long time. But anyway, for the most part, what I'll do is I'll find something related to the book. Covers a lot of times are very useful, especially if there's multiple editions, like in Agatha Christie books, or just things related to that person's, if it's a biography, that person's life, or something related to the book itself. And yeah, like for the Johnstown flood, having all the photographs related to the actual tragedy. So that's why I create the library cards and the library catalog cards. And I'm usually about a year behind, and that's usually the fault of Christie's Missing Readathon. Now that gap will be closed once I eventually have all my Agatha Christie books cataloged away, because then they'll just be rereads. This includes the library catalog cards of books that I'm currently reading that have not yet been finished. This one includes the by Dewey Decimal Code, includes the library card, not the library catalog cards, the stampable library cards for books that I'm currently reading but that are not physical books. So audiobooks, Kindle books, ones I can't just stick the library card in the back of the book. Also, this includes the huge stack of cards that I still need to put into a journal. And I'm not far off from finishing this journal here, which means I get to start a new one pretty soon, which will be a great and exciting day. So that's the basics. Now we get on to some of the fun. Now I have shown before my library card stamp. What I also have that I sometimes use on the library cards is sometimes I'll stamp from the library of, with my name on it, on the bottom of that card, just for funsies. And this is a very simple, stamp, just a little small one. If I want to, it can also go on the side of the pages of a book, if it's a thicker book, like, Truman. I don't think I've done on the side of Truman. I might have to remedy that oversight. Anyway. So, I keep the main bulk of my most important library card stuff in here. This is the stuff that if I absolutely must have something for my book journaling, the basic stuff I need, library cards, index cards, library pockets, library card pockets, the stamps that have a physical book, an audio book, a Kindle book, the stamps I can put on the back of the book that say Ex Libris and then my name with different styles of ex libris. So like I have a knight, or I'll have Sherlock Holmes or whatever, because yes, I do. Let's see what else. Oh, my basic inks are in here. Also some of the basic stuff I use for some of my card making, which I need to do some more card making for stuff I need to send out. There's a slot that I'm supposed to have my library card stamp in. I've just been too lazy to put it back. Let's see. I also keep a hole punch in here because I'm supposed to be hole punching the bottom of the index card to make it seem more legitimate. But yes, this is my basic area. And I keep like some glues in the front of here. Usually this is where my cutting pad is supposed to go. Doesn't usually live in here because I usually have it out where I can access it more easily, just like with one of my cutting pens. But so those are the basics. Now, say I want to make a library card. That information is kept in here. Oh, and I had told you guys about, this has the information about what books are in Book Journal 1. I need to update that paper. So I did a lot of research when going through and trying to determine how a library card is put together. And I found a couple of sources and just a couple of ways that broke down how to put together a library card. And I went and I kind of worked a combination of methods that seemed to be most accurate, because there were slight differences, but, you know, took the most common denominator and worked with that. Let's see, I think I had it this way. So that is my template that I use. Now, for the most part, I have it memorized because I've been writing library cards, you know, quite a bit of them fill up that book journal already. And now at this point, I am going to put this video on pause and turn the camera around so you'll be able to see what I'm looking at. But first of all, I'm going to show you what book we're going to be creating a library card for, because I've not yet created a library card or a catalog card for this indie book that I am reading. So this is Just Stab Me Now. It's an indie book by Jill Barup. She's someone I watch on YouTube. I've been wanting to read this book for a while. So it's a fantasy. And so what am I going to need for this? I will need my, is this my black ink? Yeah, let's look at my black ink. My black ink. One of my little, oopsie, my little stamps. So here's the one with the little book on it. So that's a paperback versus, you know, a Kindle book or an audio book. But I won't be using either of those two, so those go back in that bag. What else will I need? Well, my hole punch for my index card, on which I will be writing my library catalog card. And let's actually go ahead and punch that so that I can put this away. There we go. Usually I punch it after the fact to see how much, you know, room I left myself, but we'll just punch it ahead of time. Then I'm going to need a library card. You can get these with different colors, either different colored actual library cards or different color like ink where I have the red. I like red, and also it seems pretty traditional. And I wanted the white card because I want it to look real. Then what else? Oh, I am going to choose one of these blank library pocket cards. And let's see, I want one, a fantasy feeling ex libris card. So let's go ahead and pick one. Now I could go with this one, lady reading the book, but I don't think I'm going to go with that one. I think I want to go with, where is he? Sorry, I have to find him. That's not it. Oh, there it is. Okay. I want to go with this guy, the Knight. So, Ex Libris has my name on it. So that's what we'll go with for the front of that card. And actually, we'll end up stamping that first. And maybe I'll actually go with a dark green for that stamp, because I thought that this book was black, but it's actually a dark green. So let's, I have some dark green here. Let's do that to stamp that to the library card pocket, and let that library card pocket dry while we do the rest of our research. So I'm going to pause and tilt down. I think you guys can see. So here is Jill's book and our library card pocket. And actually, I'm going to move this out of the way. So this is just on the wood. Darn it. That nail has a... I'm going to have to trim that nail. It has a cut in it now. It's going to catch on absolutely everything. I'll do that later. Okay. So I said I was going to use the dark green. And I always wash my stamp later, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. So we have our wood stamp. Just sort of go ahead, cover that nicely with ink. I think that's fully covered. Now I put body weight on it, and then I sort of like rub it back and forth to make sure that it really ends up making a good impression. There we go. Yay! I like that. That turned out well. So there we go. That will go on the back of my book. Well, not on the back, and in the... I'll show you. Let me go ahead and put this cover back on here, and then I'll bring the view back up so I can talk to you guys better. Okay, guys, I'm back. So when we were in the other view, you saw me stamp this. So where is that going to go? It'll go in the back of this book right here. Now, I'm not going to put it there right now because usually this does best if I air dry it, unless I want, some of the excess ink to end up on the back of here. And I don't want that. So I'm going to set this to the side. And then I am going to try not to let that nail bother me that I found out has a little bit of a cut on the side, because I don't feel like cutting my nails until after I'm done here. So I'm going to then pause this and put us on a different view so you can see what I'm looking at for our research for this part. All right, hang on, let me pause this. Okay, guys, welcome to the wild and wonderful world of my book journaling book, or my library card catalog, my fancy dancy thing. So let's come in a little bit. As you can see, I found this from libraryillinois.edu. I did a lot of research to get my classification system together. So as you can see, it's the Dewey Decimal System, a guide to call numbers. So it gives us an overview. Shows that, okay, generalities, philosophy, that's way too close to my nails, which are not the prettiest. Okay, there we go. Generalities, philosophy, religion, social sciences, language, natural science, technology, arts, literature, rhetoric, geography, and history. So we are looking at a fictional book. So that means we're going to be going in the 800s, literature and rhetoric. So let's go back a bit. And let's see, that's still the 700s. Whoops, I went too far. 900s. Oh, wait, hold on. Actually, I'm in the right area. So 800s. So we're not going to be going for Hellenistic literature. Let me straighten this a little bit. Okay. We're not in medieval and Latin literature. Must be earlier 800s. English letters. Okay, so we're just going to be something very simple. We're going to go with 813 fiction. So I'm going to just come out a little bit and let me come out a little bit more. So just going to grab my library catalog card here and write 813. And it's Jill Barup, so we'll do B-E-A. There we go. We're set up. And let's actually just do that on our... Actually, I'm going to do that when we're in the other view, because that's going to be very frustrating if I try to do everything like that. Okay. So that's the easy part. That's finding the Dewey Decimal Code. Now let's go and back up again. And once again, we are going to be going through... Oh, hold on. Got to go back a little bit. So this is my section for the Library of Congress. So my source for this was guides.library.ucsc.edu. And it talks about what a call number is. Gives some information on that. And anatomy of a call number. And this gives me this nice little chart to work off of. It shows you what's on the book spine. So, that is, this is the number we're going to be looking for. Sorry, the letter and number we're going to be looking for to build our Library of Congress code. And then this builds up the call number that, I believe it's called the call number, that we'll be looking for later for the author. And then the year of publication. So, backing up again. This system, it's quite, simple. You have to find your area, just like with the Dewey Decimal Code. You run your hand down and you find what you're looking for. So I'm just going to get us started, and then I will turn around the view and pick one out. But because, okay, we are looking at fiction again. So, social sciences, not there. Okay, hang on. Language and literature. Was it too close in? All right, English language, literature general. That might be a good place to start. So I think that we'll be either starting in PN or, oh, here we go. We'll either be in PN, PR, or PZ. Okay, so we'll know that for when we go back there. Now, what my next step usually is, okay, after I choose my Library of Congress code, and I'll show you my putting it together for this book after I switch views. But after I, finish getting my Dewey Decimal Code, getting my Library of Congress code to the best of my, ability, because I'm not trained in this. This is all personal research. I put a lot of hours into this. So the information, I'm sorry, it's called the Cutter table, not the call number. So the Cutter table. And this you put together. So you take the first letter of the author's name, last name. So in this case, it's a B for Barup. And then you would look at the second letter. So her second letter is an E. So then I would go, okay, so B4 for expansion out. So the next letter, it would be an A. So then it would be B4 3. So B4 3, and then you'd have the date. I'll show that again when we're turned around. But this is how I put together, for every book, I go through this system. Now I'm going to pause this video and show me doing it with actually writing it in real time. Okay, I'm back. So I'm going to tilt this because thus far we have, filled in our Dewey Decimal Code that we determined because we went with fiction, just generalized fiction. and we have our author's first 3 initials of her last name. So now I'm going to pause and tilt down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I accidentally stopped the video. Hold on one sec. Okay, I think you can see reasonably well here what I'm doing. So, preferably without smacking the camera, I'm going to go back to where we were when we were still looking at the Library of Congress code. So I think that I had determined, oh, hang on, that's the Dewey Decimal. No, okay, I'm in the right area. Okay. I think that I had determined that we need to be looking either at general, literature, English literature, American literature, or fiction and juvenile. So let's start with PN, which is just plain literature. PJ, PK, PL, okay, PN. So just gonna turn your view a little bit. Let's tighten that. Okay, there. Whoa, this is a little unstable. Sorry guys if I made you a little nauseous. Okay. So we're looking at PN, and let's see. We're going to be looking at, let's see, not drama, prose fiction. That might be where we'll be going. That'll be 3311 to 3503. I might be coming back there. Okay, let me turn this a little bit. Oh, actually, here's just plain fiction. I might go there. So that takes me to, collections of general literature. Well, that's collections. I'm not doing a collection. So that might take me back to prose literature. That's French literature, Spanish literature, collections again. Okay, so English literature, I don't think that this is going to fall under English literature. Now, the author is British, but I wouldn't personally count this under British literature. I'm going to go back to general. Because I think the fiction, other section of fiction is specifically for child fiction. Yeah, because fiction in juvenile, belles lettres, fiction in English. Yeah, this section is specifically children's. So let's go back to PN. And I had decided to go with prose fiction. So prose fiction. Now it gives me a range of PN 3311 and 23503. Now I have no idea where I can go with that because I'm not trained and there's nothing to help me narrow it down more. So I'm just going to take, I'm just going to pick the first one, the first letter given to me, the first numbers given to me to go with prose fiction, which will be PN 3311. Yes, I wish I could, kind of bring it down more accurately, but I don't have the capacity. So, you just do the best you can. And actually, I'm going to need that information later. Let me write that down on a sticky note because I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So let's just, I have information on this sticky note. Let's grab a different sticky note. This one. Okay. So we're going to, I said prose fiction. So that's PN 3311. Now, sometimes I get lucky and the book will have that information right here with the ISBNs and everything, but this book doesn't do that for me, which I'm not, surprised because that's, usually I see that with classics or with history books, but it does give me a copyright year and that's 2024. So I'm going to go ahead and take note of that and take note of my ISBN, which is also here on the front. And I need the ISBN for the paperback. So that is 978-739-431914. And that's a paperback. Okay. And I'm going to take note that it's the publisher is Sword Lady Books. I think that's all the information that I need from this part of the book. Okay, so where do I go from here? I have my basic information. Now I generally build my easiest part, which is the library card. Not the library catalog card, but the actual library card. So there, I think it's the best angle. Let me move this here because this is slippery and is just going to be in my way. So put this information to the side and move my rosary off over here because that's just going to get hit. There we go. All right, I think that gives you guys a good enough view. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to kind of see what I'm showing you guys while still actually showing it to you. Okay, I think you guys can see it. All right, so let's put Jill's book here where I can take a look at what I'm writing. Now, this stuff is the easy stuff. You put last name first, bear up, Jill, and the title, Just Stab Me Now. And I believe I started this at the beginning of August, but I'll double check when I flip the screen around to look at you guys again. But I have already adjusted my library card stamp for that. So this part is done. Now, if I really want to, I can also do what I sometimes do, which is take this stamp here and just, you know, do the from library of at the bottom. So there we go. Waste a little bit of space, but I can pretend it looks official. Okay, so there's that. Library card created, just needing to be stamped. Now the catalog card, which requires a little bit more work because this is where I can more easily make mistakes. So once again, I put Jill's name, bear up, Jill, and then I have the title of the book, Just Stab Me Now. And then I do a little slashy thing there, and it'll have Jill's name again, Jill Bearup. And then here I will have, oh, where is Sword Lady Books? Where is the publishing house? Does it tell me? It does not. So I guess I will just do USA because I don't have a city. So that's what I'll end up doing. I'll do USA, colon, and then this is Sword Lady Books, circa 2024. At this point, then I will go down and have my page numbers, see how many pages are in this book. This one has 314 pages. So I'll put that information in. And because most books seem to list their measurements in centimeters, so do I. I'm just trying to get my my ruler from wherever it is hiding. There it is. So then I measure my book. So so that gives me 20.3. Yeah, 20.3. And they just want the height generally. So 20.3 centimeters. Then I will put down that, I'll put down my ISBN next. Now, this would be a section where normally, if this was not a fictional book, I might put down if there's pictures in here or a bibliography or something like that, that could go here. But that's not applicable for this book. So instead, I'll be putting the ISBN. And that would be 978 739 431914. And I can either put paperback underneath or beside it. And I'm just going to put it underneath this time. Paperback. Okay. And where did I put my stamp for that? I don't always remember to do this part until like much later. There we go. And actually, let me do it on my library card as well. That went sideways. That's fine. That's okay. It's a stamp. So there we go. So we have that. Now this is where I add on, like we were talking about, my library, my Library of Congress code. So we'd already determined that my Library of Congress code was PN 3311 for it being fiction, prose fiction in particular. Now I need to make up my cutter code because I forgot to do that, although I went through it with you guys. So it's B. So that's the B for the first letter of the cutter code. Now to follow the thing for the catalog, so E equals a 4. And then the A is a 3. Now I asked a friend of mine who works with the Library of Congress, you know, how it works when sometimes the library code, the cutter code doesn't match what I make up based off of what that information told me. And she said sometimes it's based off of collections, that kind of thing. But she wasn't able to give me a lot of information because that's not the area of the Library of Congress that she works in. So unfortunately, that was a little bit of a non-starter, but I tried. I hope to do more research and determine why the cutter code doesn't always match up, but this is fine for right now. Now here is where I put, again, the Dewey Decimal Code. Now this is the Library of Congress code. I've also seen sometimes there's something called the Library of Congress Catalog Code, and I don't know how to put that one together yet. I'm sorry, that's the Library of Congress Control Number. So this is the classification number for the Library of Congress. Then I have the Dewey Decimal Number. And then there's something called the Library of Congress Control Number. And I know it when I see it, but I don't know how to put it together yet. And that is something I'm going to have to do more research on to be able to figure out what that means and how to create that. But yeah, that is basically how I put together. Hold on one second. I'm going to adjust the view again. Okay. So that is how I put together my library cards for each book. So I have the Library of Congress. I have the library card for stamping, and then the library catalog card. Hold on one sec. I wanted to double check, and I have verified, sorry, just in camera again, that I started this book not on the 1st, but on the 2nd. So let's change that date. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp this card. Stay. Okay. So card stamped. So there we go. Card stamped, name put in there. So all that leaves left to do for this book is now my library card pocket should be perfectly dry. I just go ahead and stick it in here. There we go. That's in there. Take my library card and stick it in here. And voila, that is the process I go through with every book. This is fun for me. It's a bit of a nerdy pleasure that I have. Does it add anything to the actual reading of the book? No. But I like to imagine that somehow, somewhere down the line, someone will pick up this book, no connection to me, and they will have, at the very least, the library card, like, we get when the books come from the actual library. And it'll be like, oh, that's interesting. How often did this person reread this? If the library card's actually with the book and not in my book journal. But I can pretend that my book collection's an actual library. It's too disorganized to be an actual library because of space. But yes, that is how I set up every book reading experience. Most of my books I'm currently reading, I am up to date. This was one of the few ones I had not yet made the library card for, or the library catalog card for. Sometimes I procrastinate because if it's not an author I've read before, like an Agatha Christie, there might be a bit of time because it requires a little bit of effort to get everything out. But not a whole ton. Usually it's just plain laziness. But yeah, that's it. Does this seem a little bit insane to you guys? Like, this is very much of a niche, nerdy project that I have. I've never worked in a library. I have no training in this. This is all something that I decided one day that I wanted to do. And I spent hours upon hours upon hours digging into this, finding the resources, and making sure that I understood how these cards were put together and why. Yes, I know no one uses catalog cards anymore, but I have plenty of fond memories from when I was when I was younger, because by the time I was in my teens, we're starting to move away from the catalog card drawers. But before I was in my teens, I remember going to the library and looking through the catalog cards for the book that I wanted to read and looking for it that way. I remember learning about them in school. So it's something that's it's attached to some fond memories for me, besides just feeding in my love of classification and of creating unnecessary projects for myself, I guess. But this is just a lot of fun for me. It gives me something to put in my book journal. I'm not someone who is necessarily the most creative person on the face of the planet. So for me to book journal, it needs to have some sort of definite idea behind it. I can't just journal like, woo, I'm not one of those like go with the flow, just kind of off the seat of your pants kind of creative, where it's just like it kind of is on the whim of a moment. That's not my form of creativity. I like structure. I like to have something have a purpose and a reason of why I'm doing it. And this feeds into being a creative outlet insofar as I'm book journaling, but it is definitely a structured purpose behind it and a plan behind it. But anyway, I hope that probably goes into way more detail than anyone was interested in. But Margaret, this is something that I enjoy talking about because it is my niche project. So thank you for asking the question. I know I have created other videos to a greater or lesser extent about this project of mine, but I think this is maybe the first time I've gone through quite this amount of detail, maybe, perhaps. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. If you stuck through this video, now you know how I set up all of my books as I get ready to read them, if that was something you were even remotely curious about, which I'm sure most people were not. Anyway, thank you. You have a wonderful day, and I will see y'all again for the next video. God bless.